Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Delana. As I was spending time with God, he asked me to share another testimony with you guys. I promise this won't be too long. A while back, I was staying with a particular family member after I answered my call to God. I had to give up my car, I had to give up my apartment because God removed me from a toxic work environment. I'll share the details on that another day. However, when I got to this family member's home, there was a series of events that unfolded, and it made me realize why God wanted me near my family at this time. I had a couple of family members pass away, unfortunately, but because I didn't have a job, I had time to grieve. That's something I couldn't have planned for. But also, an older family member who I love very dearly was actually very ill. So I traveled to another location and I spent a few months taking care of this person who was ill, cooking for them, cleaning for them, making sure they took their medications, taking them to the doctors, things like that. But unfortunately, while I was there, I found out that there were a couple of family members who were leeching off of the finances of this sick person. So when I was done taking care of that person, I returned back to the original place I was staying, where I found out that that person had a history of putting evictions in other people's names and ruining their credit. So I realized that I was not in a safe space, a space where I could grow. But the catch is, I needed to borrow their car so that I could work part-time and pay my bills. So for 2 months and 3 weeks, I used this person's vehicle, and it was only for 3 days a week. However, this vehicle was given to me in detrimental shape. My family member had put 3 to 4 years of wear and tear on this car within a 1 year span. And they did less than 1 year's worth of maintenance on the car. So this family member who owns the car decided to wake up every morning and lie to people, telling them that I'm the person ruining their vehicle and that I'm the reason that their car may break down any second. Mind you, I offered to not use the car, to stop using the car completely, at least twice, because I didn't want them to be paying for a vehicle that was essentially totaled. I told her she should turn it into her car company. However, she refused, and she insisted that she was doing me a favor by keeping that vehicle. And she continued to wake up every morning telling people that I was ruining her vehicle, damaging her car. I knew this because she would sit right outside the room that I was sleeping in and talk loudly in the morning so that I could hear these lies. She was aiming to cause narcissistic sleep deprivation because she wanted me annoyed and uncomfortable in her home. She didn't want me to be able to think straight or plan for my future. That's what a narcissist does. They lie, they manipulate, they sleep deprive. They try to get flying monkeys to agree with them and back them up, and other things depending on the type of narcissist that they are. I was losing hope about my future, but God brought me this verse from the book of Matthew. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. So one morning I woke up and I thought maybe I'd address the situation so that we can come to some common ground. What I did was verbatim ask her, can you please stop talking about me and blaming me for your car issues? I then explained to her that she exceeded the average mileage on her car by 3 or 4 years, and that not maintaining her tires or anything under the hood was very dangerous. Well, narcissists don't like to feel convicted, and I guess that's what she felt. So she decided to get up and swing at me. She attacked me. She was upset and said she didn't want to talk to me. So I went to my room and I shut the door and I locked it because I didn't want to be attacked anymore. And I prayed to God to remove me from that space because I really could not see a way out at the time, because I didn't have the finances for my own vehicle or to put a roof over my own head. Prayer is what I should have done first, instead of approaching the situation and seeing that if it would change. But God actually reminded me of another family member who was in another state, and I contacted them to see if they could allow me to stay with them. They had a much more peaceful environment, and God put it on their heart to drive what should have been 3 hours to come and get me. I did not tell anyone my plans, and it's very important to move in silence because the enemy will try to use anybody to stop you. The family member that I was with was actually a monitoring spirit in my life who would tell anyone and everyone that she could my plans as soon as she heard them. So I did not let her know until that person was coming. Still, the enemy was working very hard to deter me and discourage me. So the person who was coming to get me ended up in 10 hours of traffic due to a fatal car crash, which is really sad. I was afraid that that person was going to turn around and regret coming to get me, but they didn't. And by God's grace, I left the next day. When I was finally in my new environment, the previous family member that I was staying with, the one who was sleep depriving me and all of that stuff, they persistently kept calling me every day, every week. And I felt like I had to answer because I didn't want to seem ungrateful. But every time I answered the phone, I noticed that my day wasn't going right. After answering their calls, I would end up having unnecessary arguments with other people that I actually genuinely loved and wanted in my life. So God actually told me to stop answering the phone for that person, and we need to learn to respect the boundaries that God creates for us because they're for our own good. And we have to respect those boundaries that God sets for us despite how it makes anyone else feel. I knew that that person was going to call everybody else in the family, let them know that I wasn't answering their calls and that I was ungrateful or I have an issue or whatever the case is. And I was like, I just have to let her do whatever she's going to do. But God also helped me notice that the spirit of gossip was latching onto me every time that I interacted with that previous family member. Because after speaking to her, I would end up talking to other people who were still in my life about the way that she made me feel and the things that I went through. And it just wasn't necessary. It wasn't a healthy part of actually letting it go. Instead, allow God to vindicate you. Once I cut her off and even stopped going to events that I knew that she was going to be at, my environment, my mind, my heart became tremendously more peaceful. I was gradually able to move on emotionally because when God tells you to cut people off, it's for your own spiritual, mental, and emotional well-being, and also physical if they're abusive. It's not to hurt them. Don't do anything for that reason, but do it to protect you. Be silent and allow God to fight your battles. Learn from my mistake in confronting the situation and just go to God directly. Be silent and let God fight. Pray for a solution. Pray for an exit strategy. Pray. He has not forgotten you. That is a lie of the enemy. Thank you for watching. If you got this far, I really appreciate you. Please leave a comment if you've had a similar situation to this in your life, or if you feel like you're experiencing something like this. And I am wishing you all the best. And subscribe to this community if you want to get any more videos like this recommended to you. And I hope to see you again soon.